Right. So some of the more difficult questions. Now, this question that I'm going to start with here, the denominator is what looks different. So the denominator this time is a quadratic expression rather than brackets on the bottom. But I'm sure you can probably guess what you would need to do in a question like this. You have to factorize. You have to make sure that the bottom of this fraction is similar to what you were used to. So this is going to be 27 minus x on the top still. Now, I've been having a few issues with my pen on here, so apologies if it's not as neat and normal as possible. Then you have to factorize this in the bottom, which is going to be double brackets. If you were to factorize this correctly, it's x plus 6, x, excuse me, x minus 5. I can do without that happening very often, bear with me. So, and when you split this up into partial fractions, it ends up being a over something plus b over something. There are going to be two fractions there because there are two brackets on the bottom. So you put those brackets in, it's going to be x plus 6, and it's going to be x minus 5, like that. The process then is going to be to multiply both of these by the entirety of the bottom here. So essentially what you are doing now is you're going to get rid of that by multiplying fraction a by x plus 6, x minus 5. And oh, it's all going wrong here. It's all going wrong. I blame this laptop that the school's given me. And you would also do the same to the other one. You're going to times that by x plus 6, x minus 5. Go away. Oh no. Oh, what's going on here? Oh. Okay. Technical problems here for the first time. I may have to switch to my laptop. Bear with me. Okay. If you give me a few seconds, I'm going to try and switch laptops to see if I can get this sorted. Not going to make for a good recording, this one. Bear with me, though. Just stop sharing my screen a minute. Okay, so I've switched devices now. Bear with me. I have the document open. Let's just see if this helps. Be a bit noisy here for a moment. Hang on. Pen plugged in here. Maybe dropped a mug. Oh, it's all going on here. Right. Let's start this one again. Let's hope this pen on this, it's not going to look any different to you, but I've switched laptops here at home, so hopefully this is gonna pay off. Oh, thick pen. Don't want that. 27 minus x. How far did I get? I put x plus 6 and x minus 5 as my two brackets on the bottom. And this was split into a over x plus 6 because of the first bracket and b over x minus 5. This already seems significantly better. So there we go. And what we want to do is multiply throughout by the denominator of this one. So you're going to times the first one by x plus 6, x minus 5, and the second one by exactly the same thing, x plus 6, x minus 5. From this point onwards is just a recap of the last lesson. So if you times the first one by all of that, because I've got an x plus 6 on the bottom, that cancels out with that. And because I've got an x minus 5 on the bottom, that cancels out with that. All of those things that are now crossed out now leaves me with this 27 minus x for the left-hand side equals a times the brackets that are left, x minus 5, plus b times this bracket that is left, x plus 6. Okay, good. Now this is what we want to end up with at this point here. We have another x on the left-hand side is worth bearing in mind, but that shouldn't affect the way in which we do this. We want to choose some values of x to sub in so that we get rid of one of the letters, one at a time. Now, if I choose to sub in x equals 5 in this position here, then that's going to become 5 minus 5 in the bracket, which is 0, and it'll get rid of the a, which is what I want. I'm going to do this one long-winded, and I'm going to skip a lot of workings in later ones, okay? So if I put 5 into this, on the left-hand side, I have 27 minus 5. Then I have A times 5 minus 5 plus B times 5 plus 6. Now, if I simplify all of that, I'll end up with 22 equals, well, 5 minus 5 is 0. So that goes rid of the A. And then I'm left with 11B because of this bracket over here, which gives me B equals 2. My second thing I need to substitute in is, I was going to say when, but there's no need to say that, x equals minus 6. Now, if I put minus 6 in, it'll get rid of this second bracket. And this is where I'm going to skip a bit of workings now. You don't need to write down every single step of your workings. So if I, oops, just realized my mouse is still plugged into the old computer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is plug minus 6 in now, and I'll end up with, on the left-hand side, 27 minus minus 6 equals A times minus 6 take away 5. But this is gone because that becomes 0, so there's no need for a B term. We end up with 33 equals minus 11A, and A equals minus 3. So we have our A's and B's now. We just need to sub them in for a final answer of minus 3 over x plus 6, just plugging in minus 3 into this A up here. And B is 2, so that's going to give me 2 over x minus 5 for my final answer there. Okay. Next question. Okay, so another difficult one. We need some brackets on the bottom, ideally here. We need some factors on the bottom. This is not simplified enough as it is. So in the last one, I factorized it. I'm also going to factorize this one here. And to be able to factorize this well enough, I should have a think now. How can I take as much out of these brackets as possible? Well, 3 is a common factor of both 27 and 3, and x is also a common factor of both. So I can take 3x out, and I'll be left with 9x squared minus 1. Now, hopefully the sort of eagle-eyed amongst you will spot that the bracket can still be factorized. This is a difference of 2 squares bracket. So this is actually going to become 2 over 3x times 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1. And this is a 3-factor expression of 3x being one denominator. So it's going to be a over 3x plus b over 3x plus 1 plus c over 3x minus 1. The method for the rest of this question is done in the previous video when there are 3 denominators. It's exactly the same. You multiply by the denominator of this fraction over here, and in turn that tends to cancel out one of the bottoms, and we end up having to sub things in to find out my A, B, and C. I didn't plan on doing the rest of this question here. If you'd like to go yourself another time and want the answer, let me know. But the most important part would be factorize the bottom to end up with 3 factors. And I knew there's going to be 3 factors because there was a cubed at the start of the question. Okay, so you have to factorize that as much as possible. Okay, moving on. Moving on. Now, this one is one that was briefly discussed at the end of the live stream the other day. Okay, I would just like to do this one again in full because it's a strange concept. If you have a squared bracket on the bottom, now there's a bit of a confusing concept to this. You just need to know what to do, essentially. There are 3 factors. So we're going to have 3 fractions. I'm going to drag this down, actually give me a bit of space above because I'm going to write above it in a moment. On my 3 denominators, my first one is going to be the first bracket, x plus 1. Now, confusingly, the second one is going to be the inside of the second bracket, x minus 2. And the final one is going to be the whole thing squared for the last term. So that's going to be x minus 2 squared. Now, don't ask me why, because again, off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure, all right? But that is the method that you need to do when there is a single bracket and another bracket squared. It's the inside of one, the inside of the other, and the second bracket squared, or the squared bracket goes there, okay? So you carry on then with a similar method to before. I need to multiply by this on the right-hand side. So everything gets multiplied by x plus 1, x minus 2 squared, x plus 1, x minus 2 squared. Remember to ask any questions if I'm going too fast or you're stuck on anything or want to know where something comes from, apart from that thing that I can't remember. So you times everything there by the denominator of this one here. Okay, now again, things cancel out. This one's got an x plus 1 at the bottom. That's going to get rid of that. Now, this one's got an x minus 2 at the bottom. That's going to get rid of one of them. But there's still going to be one left. That's got an entire x minus 2 squared, so that's going to get rid of all of that. So then we'll be left with 9x equals a times x minus 2 squared plus b times x plus 1, x minus 2, for both of them up there, plus c times x plus 1. So we got rid of all our fractions from the partial fractions. Now it's just a case of choosing some x values to substitute in for the time being. The first one I'm going to choose is 2, because that's going to get rid of this bracket here, and actually this bracket here. They're both going to become 0, and that's going to get rid of the b and the a. And I will be left with 9x equals just this c term, c times 2 plus 1. Well, obviously that's going to be 3c. Oops, one little error from myself. I forgot that I'm also going to be subbing in 2 here as well. Apologies. Because it was 9x, that's 9 times 2, which is 18, of course. And that's going to leave me with c equals 6. So there's one value. Okay, the other bracket I can get rid of is this one here, and that is when I sub in x equals minus 1. That's going to get rid of my b term and actually my c term as well. And I will be left with 9 times minus 1 for the left-hand side equals a times minus 1 take away 2 squared. So I'm going to have minus 9 equals, well, minus 1 take away 2 is minus 3. Square that is 9. So you'll be left with 9a, which is going to give you a equals minus 1. So I got my c and my a, but not my b at the moment. And there's no way of subbing any x value in to give me b. So the method is you choose the easiest number of x you can think of, 0, and you sub in c equals 6, a equals minus 1, my two answers from earlier. And if you sub that in, the only letter you'll be left with is b. So it's going to be 9 times 0 equals minus 1 times 0 minus 2 squared plus b times 0 plus 1, 0 minus 2, plus 6 times 0 plus 1. Subbing all of that in, and well, eventually you'll rearrange it, but I'm going to have to do this step by step. Minus 2 squared is 4, times that is minus 4. 1 times minus 2, minus 2b. 6 times 1 is 6. That's going to eventually give you, when you take things over this side, minus 2 equals minus 2b, and you end up with b equals 1. My final answer, which I'm going to write up here, is where you write them all back in the partial fractions. So a is minus 1. So that's going to be minus 1 over x plus 1. B, I just worked out, what was that, 1. Oops. So it's going to be plus 1 over x minus 2. And c is 6, so it's going to be plus 6 over x minus 2 all squared. Okay, that's just a bit of a reminder from a previous lesson, because the next question features something that has been squared. Okay, and again, I'm not actually going to do the entirety of the next question in full, unless you really, really want me to, which I'm probably fairly certain that you don't. Next question is this one here. I just start us off at least. So, it looks a bit unusual. It has been factorized as much as possible. And it looks a bit weird because there's no second bracket that's been squared. But what you can do is sort of think of it as this. It is that bracket of x has been squared with this one. So if I'm splitting this up, that's going to be a over and b over c over etc. It's the denominators that are important. It doesn't matter which one goes where as long as you include all three denominators. That's the inside of the bracket that's been squared, the bracket squared itself, and the other bracket. Those are my three denominators. The rest of the question should flow quite nicely from there, because if you multiply through by the denominator of this, an x will cancel out, an x squared will cancel out, and an x minus 2 will cancel out, and the rest of the question is exactly the same as the last one, pretty much. So let me know if you really want me to do it, but I was planning on skipping that one and going on to the last one. Now, the last one is horrendous. Actually, I had to do this one just before, just to make sure I knew what I was doing. So this one here, right, x brackets a plus 1 minus a squared over x brackets a minus a all squared in terms of partial fractions. Now, I would sort of like you to have a go at this one as like an ultimate challenge to these questions, okay? What I'm going to do is I'll stop recording because it'll just be a video that is silent for a while. If I give you sort of 5-10 minutes to have a go at this one and see what you can come up with, if you prefer to have a go at the one before, finish the one before, that's fine, okay? But I'll stop recording. If anyone is watching this back on a later recording because you weren't in the lesson or whatever, and you would like the answer to this, then let me know. Okay, other than that, you can have a go. Hang on a minute, I'm just going to stop recording and I'll go back.